Let's design some new baby form Pokemon. That's right, for the last 20 years, we've received baby Pokemon here and there. First as a way to introduce us to the breeding mechanic, but more recently to fill out the Pokedex and give us smaller forms to Pokemon that may have been just a bit unfitting as first or single stage Pokemon, and showing us just how far designs have come, since most baby forms came in a later generation. Plus, I think they're just so dang cute. Love them or hate them, they're an integral part of Pokemon design and Pokedex construction tropes. And since we're trying to hit every type of Pokemon design for our region Orova and its Pokedex, I think it's only fitting that we try our hand at designing a few baby forms for pre-existing Pokemon who I think are still deserving. And before we get into it, I want to mention that this video is sponsored by my own Discord. That's right, last week I asked you all to draw these baby forms I'm about to show off, solely based off of their names, descriptions, and typings, that I left you in the Tam Valley Productions Discord, which you can check out right here. So after we show off my versions of the baby forms, we'll show off all the ones that you drew, and we'll compare the interesting ways in which different artists can interpret the same prompt. I want to foremost thank all of you for participating in this challenge, because it was a blast to see what you came up with. And for those of you who didn't participate in this challenge, go ahead and join the Tam Valley Discord and check its notifications, because I'll be announcing a similar art challenge for the next Orova region design video as well. So without further ado, let's get into today's Pokemon. First up, I think we should take a look at two Pokemon who I think we should finally canonize the evolutionary relationship between with a linking baby form. There were a few Pokemon who I had in mind for this idea, like Pinsir and Heracross, but I eventually decided to turn to something more closely related to the Orova region we're in the process of designing. As you all know, Orova is based off of California, a premier hub for space-related things. Well, maybe not as much as Florida or Texas with their launch sites, but I still want to emphasize how much space research and overall culture play a role in this region. After all, the desolate desert in the eastern part of the region will certainly have a Pokemon equivalent to Area 51. So to commemorate this, and to add to the roster of original cosmic types that I began creating a few months ago, why don't we create a baby form to link Solrock and Lunatone? These two Pokemon are pretty much as close as you can get to two Pokemon being canonically related without a true link, so I think it's fitting that we finally design it. Why don't we create a small meteorite Pokemon? One who was discovered in eastern Orova's desert badlands a few years ago, and was concluded to be the link between these two Sun and Moon Pokemon. Introducing Stellite, the meteorite Pokemon. Stellite was discovered in a crater 2 years ago. Though its rocky body is more frail and it is much more shy than its evolutions, it's still very powerful due to a continuous absorption of both the sun and the moon's energy. It spins to fire off both hot and cold beams. So Stellite comes from satellite, light, halite, and stella, Latin for star. Overall, I think it's one of the more clever names that I've come up with. This Pokemon incorporates elements of both its evolutions in terms of design and power set. I envision this Pokemon rotating like a planet constantly, where depending on its rotation, this Pokemon would have unique powers. So it's not only a meteorite, but it's also a miniature planet, before it transforms into one of two forms, depending on whether you level it up during the day or the night, both at level 30. In terms of design, it was a big challenge to find a fitting compromise between Solrock and Lunatone. I opted to keep the red eyes both Pokemon have, but simplify the eye design a bit to be less creepy and menacing, overall just curious and observant, with a simplified red and white eye deep within the hollow craters on its body. I also wanted to allude to Solrock's rocky crests by giving it that vertical ring, which I think fits well and gives it a lot of personality, while also making it a bit more simplified and smooth to allude more closely to Lunatone's smoothness and crescent shape. And picking colors was the easiest part, since it's half Solrock orange and half Lunatone beige. I hope I succeeded in blending the colors in a fun swirly pattern on the body, which reinforces the planetary motif since it looks like Jupiter a bit, while also having some retrofuturism vibes. Let me know what you think. Overall, I'm very happy with this Pokemon, because unlike a lot of baby Pokemon, the fact that I had to find a compromise between the two thematically homogeneous but also visually distinct Pokemon actually made Stellite look more like its own thing. And now that I've shown you my version of Stellite, I think it's time that we dive into your versions. As I mentioned earlier, I want to show off interpretations that you all made solely based on the description that I gave you last week in the Discord. So for each Pokemon I show off today, your versions will be accompanying mine. First up is this drawing from some random doggo. This version is pretty neat. It looks like they included some crystals flying off Stellite like icy meteorites in real life. And the single eye is pretty creepy, while also definitely conveying the link between Solrock and Lunatone. Overall, a design with a lot of potential. Next up, this interpretation from Boreal Mind is pretty adorable. I like the expressive eyes and those cute rock mittens. It almost feels like a classic Disney cartoon character. And the decision to color the head cores orange and purple to allude to Solgaleo and Lunala is an interesting choice, which expands even further on the lore of Solrock and Lunatone and their potential origins. I love it. Now, this interpretation from Sassafrasnid is pretty great as well. I love the eye design here. A perfect blend between Solrock's rigid roboticness and Lunatone's red creepiness. I also love how the blend of rockiness and crescent shape is perfectly conveyed through the protrusions on the top and the bottom of the design. It almost feels less like a baby Pokemon and more like a middle stage going through growth, which I think is so cool that it's conveyed visually so successfully. And finally, we have this design from Sad Puddle of Oil, which I think conveys the alien-like nature of this Pokemon the very best. They specifically want us to know that this Pokemon is inspired by the personality cores from Portal, which I think definitely comes through. The giant red eye makes this Pokemon look so foreign, but also so adorable somehow. I also love the art style here, which is definitely more realistic and detailed compared to the typical Pokemon design, but it works so well for this extraterrestrial design. So again, thanks for that first batch of art, it was a blast to go through. Now let's see what the next baby form is on our list today. I want to design a baby form now for one of those awkward Pokemon who seems just a bit too big to stand alone as a single stage Pokemon. The obvious candidates here are Kangaskhan, Tauros, or Druddigon, but I wanted to find something that would fit well in the Orova region once again. A Pokemon that could perhaps originally be from our California-based region, thus explaining why it thrives here and has a baby form exclusive to Orova. So let's go with Bouffalont. I'll be honest, this Pokemon has never been a favorite of mine. It's just so bland, and it doesn't help that it's a single stage Pokemon found very rarely in the final routes of its games. But it is based on a buffalo, or more accurately an American bison. These animals are practically synonymous with the American West, ranging from the significance that they had to native tribes to well, less savory history with that whole Manifest Destiny thing. But regardless, these are beautiful real-life creatures with tons of significance around the West to this day. So let's flesh out this evolutionary line to create an adorable pre-evolution that lives on the plains, and we'll give it a slight twist on the Bouffalont concept to make it unique. Introducing Cafro, the Bash Calf Pokemon. Trainers should always use caution when approaching a young Cafro, as their headbutts may hurt even more due to their lack of head coating compared to Bouffalont. These Pokemon rarely stray far from their parents, who protect them with fierce might, so this was challenging to make distinct from its evolution, since I didn't want to just make a mini Bouffalont. I thought about going with a different hairstyle, but I realized that 1, the afro made it look really cute design-wise, and 2, it makes sense lore-wise. That's because I envision this Pokemon having a thick coating of hair not only in its head, but also on its back as you can see, which would protect it from predators out in the wild from bites and scratches. After all, these Pokemon are essentially defenseless, besides their ability to headbutt foes. I also gave this Pokemon a fun orange coloration for a few reasons. Firstly, orange is actually the color of real-life baby bison, before they grow their shaggier and darker brown coating. I also think it's a nice way to make it distinct from Bouffalon's visually, while also showing that this Pokemon is evolutionarily adapted to blend into the Golden Hills and grasslands all around Orova. So I hope that you found Cafro to be a satisfying baby form to a less than beloved Pokemon, since it will certainly be a common encounter in the early routes of Orova. And now it's time once again to see how you all interpreted this prompt. First up is, again, a piece from Some Random Doggo. I love this flat top hairstyle on this Cafro, and the much more athletic build overall. A solid concept with lots of personality. This Cafro from Phi actually plays with the different hairstyle I initially thought of. That piercing in the shaggy hair actually makes it look more like an angsty teen rather than a cute baby, which I think is pretty neat. Sassafrasnid had a design for Cafro pretty similar to mine, with the mini afro covering the eyes and going for a rounder baby design overall. I love the mini horns though, gives it a nice edgy look. And finally, here's Catgo Burr's version, which is very unique. This one honestly looks like it could either be a pre-evolution for Bouffalont or more likely Tauros. That hammer tail is pretty intimidating. So now that we've seen both yours and my version of Bouffalont's baby forms, how about we move on to our final Pokemon of the day. Just like Bouffalont, I wanted to iterate upon a Pokemon that I found less than appealing, or at the very least, a bit awkward as a single stage Pokemon, and round it out a bit by making it cuter. This time, Skarmory. Now, I know, this Pokemon is fairly popular among fans, but it's never really done it for me. It just kind of feels like an arbitrary mix of steel and bird with no real unifying concept, besides just being an edgy metallic bird of prey, and I can't exactly fix that with a baby form. But what I can do is create something cuter and rounder, to make its transformation to Skarmory a bit more satisfying, so let's figure out what we can work with. Well, Bulbapedia doesn't have too much on its origins, besides mentioning that it is possibly based off of paper cranes, which I actually think could work pretty well. Also consider this. Its skin and feathers are solid due to being raised in very harsh conditions. Its nests are usually found in thorn bushes, where continual scratching of a young individual's skin will eventually harden it into an iron-like state. So why don't we run with that? Let's create a baby bird Pokemon who's born into sharp nests in the dangerous forests of Orova, where constant exposure to pointy twigs and thorns will make its paper-like down feathers transform into steel blades over time, where it finally evolves into Skarmory. Paper armor already has a precedent in various world cultures, so I think it'll be a nice nod to that as well. Introducing Scarling, the down armor Pokemon. Scarling are born in thick, thorny nests to protect them from predators. Thus, they spend their infancy gaining immense durability as their down feathers slowly harden enough to scratch even the gaping jaws of a hungry Lobuaro. So I don't have too much to add to this Pokemon's lore, since all I really wanted to do was create a cute but still somewhat awkward version of a fairly popular Pokemon, while paying homage to its pre-existing Pokedex entries. I would say that just like most baby Pokemon, Scarling would evolve via friendship, and it would be found in remote forests, open plains, and rocky outcrops all across Orova. A very durable and very resilient Pokemon that's pretty significant culturally as well, since I imagine its fallen feathers would have been collected by native tribes to the region and fashioned into ceremonial wear, just like real-life bird feathers. I hope you enjoy this version of Scarling, and to cap off this video, let's check out all of your versions. First up is this version from some random doggo once again. This version is essentially a tiny version of Skarmory, and it really embraces the pointy elements. I love the pose too. Very confident. Next up, I think this version from Sassafrascinate is very clever. The neck plating from Skarmory is shown here as a baby bib almost, and those tiny wings and very blank expression really sell the goofiness. Now, this version from T Donahue 88 is truly great, one of the best pieces from this whole challenge. The dynamic pose and adorable proportions, plus near imitation of the Sugimori art style are very well done. Boreal Mind's version looks more dinosaur-like than most others here, which I think works for a fearsome Pokemon like Skarmory, a very grumpy expression and stubby limbs. Like, this guy is unhappy to be such a baby. So great. This version from Sad Puddle of Oil is amazing as well. A much more regal look compared to all the goofy interpretations we've gotten so far. This one almost looks like a medieval knight's helmet, which I think is so awesome. The K-Dog has a similar interpretation to T Donahue 88's, the goofy look and a fluffy underside of down feathers almost like a diaper. This guy looks like he has no thoughts, and I love it. And finally, Alien Boy has an adorable looking dinosaur bird as well, which nails the blend between bird, metal, and monster. A very balanced design overall here. So that about wraps it up for today's video, where we've officially added 3 Pokemon to our ever-growing roster of Orova region designs, which is now pushing 70. All in all, you've done some amazing work, and I couldn't be happier to feature all of your art for this first challenge. Nor could I be any less honored that you've all taken the time to interpret some Pokemon with me this week. I can't wait to do more of these challenges, and I can't wait to release some fun videos in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for more content.